Hello and welcome to the Militaria shop. In this video we wanted to discuss the attributes of an M35 double-decker Luftwaffe helmet that we've just had come in. It's a nice original M35 model which is defined by the air vent here is actually a rivet on the M35 models. On later models, the 1940 model and the 1942 model of German helmet, the rivet was replaced by a stamped or punched reinforced hole, so they removed the necessity to put a rivet in there, and that when you check the inside of the helmet for this in this position, you can see whether it's a rivet or whether it's stamped out more easily. The other attribute of an M35 helmet is the rolled rim along the bottom here. This rim, which we can discuss in more detail, is very well defined, and on the originals more so than the modern sort of reproduction ones, the German engineering was very precise. So generally you will find that is a nice even smooth rim all the way around the edge. So the reason for looking at this helmet is it's come to us with a reproduction liner in it, and we wanted to take the liner out. The helmet, as you can see, has got quite a lot of the original blue M35 Luftwaffe paint on it, and it's unlikely that the new owner would want to keep a reproduction liner in a helmet like this, because this helmet's worth far more as a helmet than it is with the reproduction liner. And I understand why somebody's done it. They might have done it for a display or for something, but it's a nice original helmet. So looking at one side, we've got the national colours of Germany, which was put on the earlier helmets that the Germans issued to the various branches of service. You've got the SS, the Army, the Navy, and the Luftwaffe. And the Luftwaffe helmets were nearly always a deep blue colour, as this one has the original blue still on it. A little bit of wear to the top, but no rust. It's just surface wear over time. So the tricolour has got usage commensurate with the age of the helmet. And it's just a nice, honest helmet. It has the national emblem for the emblem for the Luftwaffe, the flying bird on the other side. Obviously, we have to cover up various symbols for sensible showing of videos. But overall, it's a good. Combat used is the expression we'd use. It's not perfect condition, but it's a good example that you would want for a collection. But what lets it down from our perspective is that somebody's put the reproduction liner into it. So I'm going to take that out in a moment. The other attributes that this helmet's got, it's got somebody's name written in there. Very difficult now to be able to research that without a number or a unit or something, but it's still got a name in it. Another point that these helmets have generally, not always, but generally, is a 3 or 4 digit number stamped into the back of the helmet, and this would have been a batch. So a certain department of the government would order 5,000 of this particular model, 10,000 of a Luftwaffe helmet, 14,000 Kriegsmarine helmets, etc. So there's a lot of debate in America that batch numbers have some relevancy to particular markings on helmets, and if you think about that, that's just a completely implausible situation, because they were making tens of thousands of helmets a week. I think I saw a figure that said they made 28 million during the course of the 10 years from 1935 to 45. So if you're making 10 million helmets across various manufacturers, that number would have repeated every few hours or every few days, and I don't really believe that there's any way somebody can say, oh, it's a 4276, that must make it a Luftwaffe helmet. I don't think there's any sense in that. I think it sounds great and it sells a few books, but I don't think it's particularly sensible. But that batch number on there seems to entertain people at the moment, and so it's a talking point. The main thing you're looking at really is the size marking on the helmet, and this one appears to be marked ET66, ET being the abbreviation of the manufacturer, and their names, their initials, and the 66 will be the size of the helmet. That's the dimensions of the exterior band of the helmet. Obviously the interior is a slightly different size, so when we take the liner out, you'll see that there's 2 separate markings on there. It might say 66 or 56 or something similar, and that would indicate that the helmet it fits in is one size and the liner interior is a different size. So if you were looking at this and for a moment thought it might be real, the things that you would look for initially are, does the liner, does it fit very well? And if you look at this clearly doesn't fit very well. It's been in and out of this helmet and probably a couple of dozen other helmets over its lifetime. As I say, the liner is completely reproduction, so it's not trying to deceive anyone. It is just an example of a reproduction liner. But this band here doesn't fit that very well. If you look at that in some detail, there's a lot of space on there. Also look at the damage there, bit of a dent there, somebody's prized the liner out at some point. And these liners, generally the modern ones, have a very sharp edge, and that sharp edge really you don't see on the originals. There tends to be a slight lip inwards, a slight kink inwards, a few millimeters down on the outside of these bands on the real ones, which means it tapers into the shape of the helmet itself. The chin strap is a reproduction, as we've said. It's got some age because it's probably been out in the wet somewhere and been at a show or something, I don't know. But it generally doesn't fit very well. So to remove this, what we're looking at doing is where the three rivets are here, we would bend the inside of the liner slightly in, and you can see it exposes, if I can zoom that in a little bit, it will expose the rear of a split pin. And we pull one side of that to the middle, and if we can get our finger through to the other side to the middle, and when those reach the center, they should allow us to pull the rivet through, and the little backing washer will fall into the helmet. So that's one done. And if we look at the next one, we do the same process. We just pull that. Sometimes it's easier to do it with a screwdriver, but so just pull that like that, and then pull the liner. Just the washer's just holding it back a little bit. There we go. If we take the washer off, we should be able to pull the pin out more easily. Because they're not originals, these tend to stick a little bit sometimes. Just grab them with a little pair of grips and see if we can just pull that out. There we go. And then same with the back. Now the back's a little bit easier to get at, but it's still the same principle, to bend the little pieces of the helmet pin together. It's just a simple split pin device. I'll show you one in a moment. And they're just tricky rather than difficult. Let's pull that with those, get a firmer grip on the outside. There we go. So once we've done that, just have a quick look at the pins. These are reproduction pins, that's why I've not taken any care with them. If you've got real pins, what you can do is if they're bent like that, they're very difficult to put back into a helmet. So what we do is we just put a flat screwdriver into there, and if you watch what I do now, if I just bend that back to the center, you can straighten them. If you sit with a pair of pliers and you do it slowly, you can actually straighten them back to their original specification, which would have been provided. Not too dissimilar to that. These are a bit wobbly and broken. The originals don't move like that, so they're a bit easier. They're a bit firmer and a bit easier to get in and out. But that's another example. You see, that one's all flattened now. It's come out, so we can just do that, straighten it up a bit, and it's ready to use. So if we pull the liner band out, I just want to talk about there's the three pins, the backing pins that came out of the back of the backing washers, should we say, not pins. So there's the three washers, they'll go with those pins. So we'll come back to the helmet in a moment. So the liner, as I said, is if you look, it's been in and out of various helmets. It's got a little kink there. Sharp edges. I know they're sharp edges because I cut my finger on one. I've cut my finger on this one before. So not very good quality, but not trying to deceive anyone. It has a wartime German marking, as a lot of reproduction things do nowadays, but not genuine. The rivets also tend to be of poor quality and just sort of banged in very quickly. So generally the attributes of a modern liner are cheap and cheerful, really. The 66 and 56 being the exterior helmet size and the interior hat size of the wearer. And then on the back, they've gone to some lengths to make them look like an original, which is the Germans put this strengthening piece of leather into the place of the string hole. You can see that one's missing off there, and it will tear through quite quickly, I think, without the little reinforcing piece. I'm not quite sure what this this felt is here. This seems to be some sort of bizarre thing, some extra material. The originals have a little felt, a very thin felt band around here to protect the wearer's head, just to give a bit of cushioning against the edge of the metal band. And if you turn the band inside out there, you can see that the various elements are put together with little pieces of aluminium, little split pin aluminium pins going all the way around. It's funny, actually, the early reproductions that were made in Poland, probably 10 or 20 years ago now, they used to get this metal from tin cans, and you would find sort of Coca-Cola tin can markings on the back of some of these pins, because they probably were cutting up tin cans to make the little pins for the back, and you see them with red and black lettering on them sometimes, the early reproductions. But that's not trying to be anything it's not. It's just a simple liner and chin strap, not particularly valuable. Probably nowadays they're probably 25 to 30 pounds to buy, and you can buy one that will fit any helmet. So readily available and cheap and cheerful, really. But the reason we wanted to take the helmet liner out is to get at the actual helmet itself. It's a model 35, as I said, with the rivet and the folded edge. The quality on the edge, as I said earlier, was really the main differentiator between some of the later models where they didn't have the rim. So the M35 has, and it's difficult to know whether you can see it properly in the video, but that there is actually a rivet that's placed on the outside and then rounded off on the inside, so you can feel it. It's a very obvious rivet, strengthening basically for the air hole, and the air hole was there to allow a little bit of air to get through to the wearer's head behind the liner, and you've got one on both sides, as you can see. So there's the liner mounting pin, and there's the rivet, and you might be able to see that one a little bit better. So this helmet, as I say, has a batch number, and it has a size number, and also the person's name inside it. The liner out gives us access to the internal colour, and very often you'll find on these helmets that not only is the internal colour much brighter than the exterior because it's not suffered with the weather, it'll also give you some indication of the branch of service, because if a helmet's been reissued, repainted on the outside, and that happened a lot in 1940 when they got rid of this tricolour in favour of just having one emblem on one side of the helmet, then very often the exterior of the helmet was overpainted or cleaned and repainted with either a camouflage or with a darker green colour, a textured green colour. And the internal colour sometimes, if they were being lazy, would stay the same. So you could look at the original colour in this instance, blue on the inside, and say green on the outside, and you'd know that the helmet will have been reissued, and that's perfectly normal for the lifespan of a helmet. If you just, I'm just going to wet that slightly. It's difficult to see, but it's actually improving the colour just doing that. So a little wipe sometimes with some light easing oil or WD-40 or something can very often bring up the highlight, the colour of the original colour of the helmet. And another thing to look out for if you're looking at an original helmet, during the war they had what they called a dome stamp, and that would be an oval stamp that would sit in here with some manufacturer's details on it. This one, I can't see a stamp inside it, but that's not unusual. Actually I can. Very faintly I can see a dome stamp in there. So there's been an oval dome stamp there. I very much doubt you'll see it, but it's just in there. And that would be done by the manufacturer with their details on, and that's quite a nice thing to find in a helmet. But we'll probably just give this a wipe with a light oil just to protect it, and then it will be up for sale on our website. But one other thing I wanted to point out is the Luftwaffe Eagle. We have to cover the what should we say, the insignia up on the side for obvious reasons. But other than that, you're looking for an even wear when you're looking at decals and helmets, the easiest thing to do is you're not really generally looking for modern rust. You're looking for rust that's been there a long time, or it's aged, or the metal has toned naturally in the weather. And if you think about your average German helmet, if it was on the front with a soldier wearing it and he was taking it off, putting it down, bumping into things, knocking it on the floor, knocking it on the side of vehicles, they have so many marks. But what you don't want to see is bright new scratches. You don't want anything modern. You want something that just looks overall toned, the same type of tone. And the same goes for any wear to the decals. You can see that the decal's always been there. The decal wear is commensurate to the surrounding wear of the helmet. And I think that a lot of people think because something has a lot of wear, then it must be real, it must be genuine, and that's not always the case. But you have to remember that these are 80 years old, and at over 80 years, even if it's just sat on a shelf in a house, it's still going to have aged and toned the metalwork down. So look for overall aging, slightly less wear on the inside of the helmet, because that wouldn't have suffered with the weather, and generally it's a thing we say to a lot of collectors: try and buy the best helmet you can at the time, and then the next time you buy, try and upgrade it slightly. But if you buy something that's reproduction, it will always be reproduction, and if you buy something that's original, it will always be original. And then people can argue with you over the value and the price of it, but they can't argue over the quality of it. So this came to us over the weekend, and it's a nice helmet, spoilt slightly by the reproduction liner, but I think that a collector will buy this and then they will put a nice original liner in. And original liners, you can probably pick one up between 150 and 200 pounds, I would have thought, that would fit this. Chin straps tend to be a little bit more expensive now. They seem to have the supplies seem to have run out of those, so they tend to be going up in price. But overall, this is a nice original helmet, named, double decal, so it's an early colour, nice untouched combat helmet. This will be going on our website, and if you didn't know who we are and where we are, we're the militariashop.com, and we have plenty of original reproduction and modern items on our website, so take a look if you get the chance. Thank you very much.